Hello, I'm Tanya Krishna, and today we have with us Mr. Himanshu Chakrawarti, CEO of Snapdeal. Welcome, Mr. Chakrawarti.
Hi, Tanya. Pleasure to be with you, and hi to everyone.
So, first of all, I'd like to ask on the overall e-commerce industry. How is the e-commerce industry growing currently, and what has really helped the growth of this segment in the last few years, if you may?
So the entire e-commerce segment has actually been growing quite well in terms of the growth rate, and specifically in the pandemic years, we saw a huge lift in the growth pattern. So the growth continues to be high. The segment that we operate in is the value segment and the value lifestyle segment. Yeah. Here, the CAGR rates are close to around 35 to 40% per year. And over the next few years, also, we anticipate the CAGR growth rates to be in the region of 35 to 40% in the value lifestyle segment.
And do you think the growth momentum for just the e-commerce segment, if we talk about it, will it continue in the coming years, or now that people have started moving, freely, and the pandemic is almost, if we can call it that, is over? So, do you think e-commerce will decline in few percentages, or how do you see it?
No, it will not decline. Actually, let's look at some of the larger forces at play in terms of the environment, right? One is the adoption of, let's say, e-commerce. Now, what we saw was the first phase of e-commerce was actually when the data rates in India were very high, and therefore the number of people who were onto internet itself was not that high. And within that, the e-commerce shoppers, which is the first wave of shoppers, was not that large. Then came the geo revolution, which is took us to the lowest data rates in the world, which added a humongously large number of people on the internet per se. And then, of course, a certain percentage of those started shopping online as well. We saw an accelerated usage of e-commerce in the pandemic years, as we are well aware. Now, let's look at the future. In terms of the future, what we are saying is that the next 100 million or 200 million customers that come in onto the e-commerce shopping, right? A good 90%, 88 to 90% of them would come in from the more of the value segments. Why do we say that they'll come from? Because the growth rate that you will get from the more affluent sections, by and large, everybody, all those users are already shopping online. Maybe not so frequently, some of them very frequently, but they're already online and shopping, right? And therefore, only, let's say, people who are getting into age groups transition is what will largely get added there. But the actual growth in the sheer number of e-commerce, first-time e-commerce users, next 100 to 200 million will largely happen from the so-called Bharat, or the more of the value segment. Uh, so that's going to be the primary driver of growth in the market, and this will have an impact across all kinds of segments, not just the lifestyle segment, but across all kinds of e-commerce segments over the next 4 to 5 years.
And now, if we talk specifically about Snapdeal, can you elaborate on the company's performance in the year 2022 in terms of revenue generation, growth rate, etc.? And what are your projections for the year 2023?
So as far as last year is concerned, we grew quite well last year. And in our case, actually, one of the things that happens, Tanya, is that the numbers are quite, there are multiple comparisons to the numbers. There's a GMV number, there's an NMV number, there's an actual revenue number, which is actually our commission that we get, which is what we recognize as the revenue. So there are multiple numbers at play here in terms of what happens. And therefore, unlike regular businesses, it depends on what number that you are looking at. But we had across all whether it is revenue, whether it is the number of units, or whether it is the GMV or the NMV, we had a very good growth last year. This year continues to be a decent growth story, but as you know, with the pandemic impact lessening, which is what we have seen, the growth rates are moderate. I'm not getting into exact numbers because we don't give forward guiding numbers at all, but it is going to be decent, but lesser compared to what we have seen in the earlier pandemic years.
And if we talk about most sold categories, what are those at Snapdeal? And and then the mode of payments. What are most popular mode of payment at Snapdeal right now?
Since we serve Bharat, Tanya, most of the orders that we are getting are on the COD mode still. Yeah, cash on delivery. Now, does this mean that they don't have access to a payment instrument? With UPI gaining traction, a lot of them have, but I think many of them are still not very comfortable with online transactions, with those methods of transacting. So most of Bharat, actually, the shopping is COD. Yeah. So in our case also, very large percentage is COD. Close to around 85 to 90% of our orders are COD orders. Yeah. And only 10 to 15% is prepaid instrument of some form or the other. So that's the one part of, because of the nature of the traffic that we have and from where
Right.
it's from.
Right.
Then in terms of the categories, the largest category that we have is fashion. Now, fashion comprises of menswear, women's western wear, ethnic wear, kids wear, fashion accessories, and footwear. Yeah. And then we have a significant contribution from categories like home, general merchandise, and beauty and personal care.
About the return rates, are these uh, moderate, or it's better than before? How are you handling the returns? Can you elaborate on that part?
Yes, it's a very good question, because I think in the value segment, and specifically when you have a COD predominant segment, yeah, I think this question is extremely relevant in terms of how do you deal with the returns. Now, returns, Sanya, just for the sake of the audience, there are two types of returns. I'll just I think you know it, but I'll just, for the sake of everyone's understanding, just spell that out. So one return is called RTO, or return to origin, which is nothing but the packet goes undelivered. It is undelivered. The customer does not take delivery of the packet. So that's called RTO. And the second one is the one where the customer receives the packet, goes through the products, finds something or the other not right, either the size, or does not find the product to be right, or changes his or her mind, or does not have a good experience with the product. There can be a whole, array of reasons, but decides after receiving the product and opening the packet, decides to return it. Right now, so these are the two types of returns. Now, in both the cases, there's a large amount of expenditure that we end up having, because we have to carry forward leg, and don't forget that the return leg actually, for transporting it back, costs us much more than the forward leg. Yeah, always, because there's a pickup and then different places, and then you need to bring it back. Now, therefore, tackling this issue of both the delivery percentage as well as the customer returns is important. Now, returns from the customers is purely based on the quality part. So if we take care of the quality, it will be low. So in our case, it is one of the lowest in the industry, because we have been obsessed with quality for the last at least 2 to 2.5 years. We've been very obsessed with quality. So therefore, the returns on that front, where the customer actually takes the delivery of the product and then decides to return it, is very low. Then we come to the other challenge, which is the undelivered packets. Now, there's a lot of science in that. How do you structure your mechanism for sending it? How do you figure out what all do you need to do to communicate with the customer to ensure that the delivery takes place? What all 3PL partners, and how do you monitor it on an active basis? Which lane is better performance for a particular 3PL partner? And so on and so forth. How do we therefore bring our millions of data points together on the data science understanding to keep optimizing this? So we have been on this journey of optimizing this RTO over the last almost 2 years, and we have crunched it down to a very, very manageable number. In fact, in the category that we are in the COD component, because you can't compare COD with prepaid. Prepaid, the return component is lesser, right? Undelivered component is lesser. But if you were to do COD to COD, again, we are probably the best in class compared to anybody else in the market. We've been quite obsessed with it. And in the value segment, the economics of the business and the profitability of the business, a large component is managing the returns, the RTO and the returns.
Now, if we talk about technology side of things, how is AI or technology helping your brand improve customer experience and accessibility?
So that actually plays a significant role, technology in all its forms. AI, of course, is what you're pointing out. Machine learning, yeah, data science is in all its manifestations. So we do a lot of that. Now there are various examples, and we can spend a lot of time on that. But essentially, what we are doing in terms of using AI ML algorithms is to solve problems for the Bharat customer. Now let's look at what are the kind of, and I'll give one or two illustrations to just demonstrate how this is being solved. Let's look at the kind of problems that a customer from Bharat has. One is in terms of many of them, you would notice that in the Bharat value segment, you'll find a lot of people actually sending audio messages on WhatsApp to each other, which you'll be quite familiar with, right? Hmm?
Right.
Now, therefore, how do we make our entire experience more related to visual and audio rather than text? Yeah,
Okay.
one of course is quite easy, which is the PDP pages, etc. The product pages need to be low on text and heavy on visual and main points to be done. But
Right.
also that brings us to the thing in terms of saying how do we therefore encourage the customers to be able to do this search, for example, in their own language and through audio, and make sure that the system understands what they're looking for. Don't
Right.
forget, in India, the dialect changes every 50 kilometers. Yeah.
True.
So how do you train and how do you make sure that the search, when you do a voice search, the system understands what you're searching for, and with a reasonable accuracy actually serve the results to you. So this is one manifestation of this. Second is, let's say you are a first time customer. Just for your information, amongst our first time users, so we have repeat users on our platform and first time users.
Right.
Amongst the first time users, Tanya, that we have on our platform, almost 30 to 35% are ever first time users, not just on Snapdeal.
Okay.
They are ever first time users or shoppers on e-commerce, right? Now they're not familiar, unlike you and me, they're not fully familiar with how to do this. Now they get
Right.
stuck at various places. They get stuck at the address. Let's take an example. They'll get
Right.
stuck at the address page,
Right.
right? Now, how do we train our system to understand this, that the customer is stuck at that page? Yeah, it can happen by your filling in, let's say, a wrong field wrongly or incorrectly.
Right.
It can happen by let's say you're trying to figure it out and being on that page for a longer than necessary period without any input going in. Multiple ways there can be. So one is, of course, the classical method is in terms of putting that little thing there, need help, right? But instead of doing that, we actually have voice actually that becomes active. सर ये
Okay.
मैडम क्या आपको, क्या इसमें हम आपकी मदद कर सकते हैं? So we are using a lot of this. Again, one good interesting input, Tanya, which is there on let's say how our algorithms work is, and that everybody does, but in our case it is far more important, and I'll explain to you why. Now, for example, when Tanya, you get onto any platform, what you will get to see it in the see in the feed in any good platform will be very different from if Himanshu logs in, because there's a whole bunch of things based on your past, what you have browsed, what you have bought, your profile, where you're from, etc., etc. So the
Okay.
algorithms actually give you a feed which is in line with you as Tanya, and I will get my own individual feed, which is Himanshu as an individual. So this is quite obvious. Now, however, in our case, it gets critical because we are largely serving the Bharat customer. Almost 70% of the customers in our shopping journey on our platform neither use search nor do they actually at any point of time do any filters, use any filters. So they don't apply
Right.
filters
Right.
and they don't use search. So how are they
Right.
shopping? They're either shopping through the homepage feed, or they are shopping by pressing those category subcategory buttons and then the feed. and
Okay.
then the feed. So essentially, it is the those buttons and the feed that becomes important.
Right.
Therefore, for us, we it is investing so much of the best talent that we have in making sure that what you get to see, yeah, on Tanya gets to see is extremely relevant for you.
But in line with this, did Snapdeal never think of getting into live commerce because there's audio and video, somebody explaining the product to the consumer? So don't you think that will work better for a brand like Snapdeal?
So we actually, did a little pilot on live commerce, but the commercial numbers do not stack up. In fact, that's the case with everybody. So we are quite ready to do it, but I think adoption of that being so low, and you can see that across some of the platforms where it is. We did only a pilot on some of the other platforms, actually a regular feature. You will find that the number of attendees is 20, 30, 40. You can see the number of attendees there, 100, 105, 80. So the whole thing of actually creating content, yeah, for live commerce, and the amount of space that you give, real estate that you give there, as also the cost of creating that, the entire economics actually does not, in the current context, does not work out. Maybe at some stage, I agree with you. It's a powerful medium, but the current commercially, it is not workable.
If we talk about the delivery side of things, how are you competing against the so today brands are delivering in 1 day or 2 days or within hours as well. So how are you competing against that? Or if you're not offering that, is there a challenge there? Are you losing on business from that side?
So actually, this quick commerce or semi-quick commerce or same-day delivery or next-day delivery is a phenomena which is more to do with the more metro audiences and the more affluent audiences, right? Uh, Now, as I said, most of our audience, in fact, 75% of our audience is from tier two and beyond, smaller cities. And we do active research on everything with them, both qualitative and quantitative. Yeah. What is very important for them is not the number of days that you are taking and the urgency. Yeah. What is important for them is to know with certainty when are you going to deliver. So let's say today, if you're placing the order on 18th, they want to know when will you deliver. Suppose we have the date which says in 4 to 5 days, which would mean 22nd to 23rd.
Hmm.
They want you to be true to that promise.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, it
Hmm.
can't be 10 days delivery and 12 days delivery. We also
Hmm.
understand. But it's not about the same day, same hour delivery. And research after research that we do all the time indicates that that's not a relevant factor.
Who do you see as competition in the value segment, and what are your strategies to really stay ahead of the curve from these competition?
So at a macro level, we have a competition virtually from all platforms. I think because anything which is in the consideration set of customers is by definition competition, right? Anything which is in the customer's consideration set would become competition. So virtually everybody is a competitor. However, having said that, and therefore there's a lot of things to learn from the customer perspective on somebody shopping on some other platform. What is it that they like there? Yeah, and are we short on something? Do we need to improve? So that's the entire thing of the learning experience that we have. However, having said that, our context is quite different because we are largely focused on serving Bharat. Now,
Right.
now optically it may look like that, but Bharat is also being served by other platforms. But there's a difference. I'll just give you one illustration of why it is different. Right now, I initially earlier told you that most of our customers rely on the feed. Yeah, they don't use filter and they don't use search. Now, what that essentially means is that let's say you are a customer from a tier two town value segment and you're looking for t-shirts. Now, if I give you a t-shirt range which starts at 300 rupees, and then I give you something which is at 700, 1500, 2,500, and maybe some of the brands at 4,999. Yeah. And I put it in the feed for you. How do you, as the value segment customer who's probably going to buy 300, 400, 500, 600 rupees ka t-shirt, how's this experience relevant? Yes, you're serving me, but I get to see non-relevant merchandise, good amount of non-relevant merchandise. Yeah. And actually it interferes with my experience. Now on our platform, we are very curated. So when you're looking at t-shirts, you will have it starting at 300, let's say, as an example, and it'll get over at 799.
Oh,
Everything that you have is relevant, that you will see is relevant. Our therefore way of approaching is with the lens of the Bharat customer, Tanya. And therefore, while I said everybody is a competitor, we are obsessed with how do we solve the problem for this, which gives us this long-term differentiation in terms of the customers wanting to transact and shop with us.
if we talk about your expansion plans or strategies to move ahead, what are those and what are the additional investments, if any, that's directed towards these plans?
So primarily, there are two growth engines that we are looking at. One is, of course, of Snapdeal, the platform, and we discussed in any case. So there, of course, we are constantly trying to grow by making the platform better, more intuitive, more relevant for the customer. And of course, we also do acquisition of customers like everybody would do, but we do acquisition at the cost at which it makes commercial sense for us. We want to be a profitable enterprise, and we do it at a cost. So therefore, the growth on the Snapdeal platform is largely through all the organic initiatives that we take and some amount of customer acquisition that we do through the performance marketing or the marketing channels. Then the other one, which is a large opportunity. Now, in the process when we are doing this curation of merchandise and solving the problem for Bharat in terms of the range and the curation, is where we started looking at what should the merchandise look like, because there are actually in the value lifestyle segment there are very few brands, actually virtually no brands. Yeah, there are hardly any brands. Yeah, and therefore if you were to create these, what will these look like? Then we said actually it is not a problem for our platform alone, it's a problem for every platform. And that's how we created this company called Stellaro Brands, House of
Mhm.
Brands. And House of Brands actually has brands which cater to the needs of all the platforms which are there. So we have got brands which are quite interesting. We have got in home a brand called Home Tales. We've got in beauty a brand called Miyuki. In deodorants, we've got a brand called Nord. In skincare, we've got a brand called Aragma. Then we have got in the larger space of fashion, we have got two brands. One is Urban Mark, which is menswear, Western women's wear, and kids wear, all the three categories. And then we have Rangita, which is for ethnic wear, which focus on both, saris as well as kurtis and the entire ethnic space. Uh, we will be adding some more brands to this list as we move forward. We've got an athleisure brand called Fit Monkey, which is going to come in and get launched. And as we speak, we have launched this on Amazon. It's already live. These brands are live on Amazon. Last month, they've been live. 3-4 weeks, they've been live. We are live on Flipkart. Not with everything. With some of the brands are live on Flipkart. With one brand we went live with Agio yesterday, partially. It's still getting uploaded. Yeah. Tata Click, we are live with some of the brands. But it's only a matter of time before they will be live on all these platforms, and they all serve the needs of this great value, great quality, curated range for the Bharat customer.
So you mentioned all these brands under the House of Brands. Is it House of Brands, right?
Yes.
So, how does it compete against the new age D2C brands, because they are offering affordable range products and all of what you are offering? So, how do you see at the competition there?
So if we look at our Stellaro brands, which is the house of brands that we have created, name the house of brands, right? Now, essentially, one is the range that we create, the quality and the range. But also don't forget that we have a great understanding of the e-commerce space.
Mm.
We have been in this field, we have been here at scale. So we understand the e-commerce space extremely well, right? It just happens that it is going on some other platform.
Right.
So our knowledge of e-commerce, data science, e-commerce, technology, text, this thing, the optimizing logistics, the logistics, all that is something that we understand very well. And then along with that, when we have these brands in Stellaro is and place it on the other platforms, we therefore have the brands that can go in there along with our deep understanding of the space.
Now, if we talk about the value retailing, do consumers still look for discounts at value brands, and does it affect? How do you handle all of that? And does it affect the margins of the brand, or if not, the quality of the products?
So actually, this discounting is a phenomena is where it's a known brand, right? Now, suppose it's a brand. Let's take the example. If you are if you're selling, let's say, Calvin Klein, right?
Mhm.
Now, Calvin Klein price as a brand is a known brand, and its price is quite established, right? And therefore, you one platform you see it at one price, and another platform you see it at another price, and then everybody tries to discount. And I'm giving as an illustration Calvin Klein, very fond. It's from my one of the earlier companies. Very fond of the brand. I'm just illustrating with the name, right? Now, therefore, if you find differential pricing, then there's more the discount, more is the chance that people will buy it, right? And whichever platform is off. Now, if you were to look at the value segment, there are hardly any brands. Yeah, they're all labels.
Right.
So therefore, what is very important is that the price value equation has to hold up, not discounts. If the price value equation is holding up, yeah, then the transaction would take place. So actually, in lifestyle, which something which looks like in this there should be the highest impact of discounting, it is not true. It is not, because there's no fight going on who will give the most excessive discount. It is largely based on where does the customer see the price value fit the best, because there's no comparison, like to like, very little comparison.
Last year, Snapdeal was planning to file for IPO, which got shelved. So, what was the reason for that, and when are we looking at Snapdeal going public? Yeah.
So the primary reason, as you are aware, the conditions in the market are such that it's not a question of whether you should have an IPO or not have an IPO. There's a situation where the entire environment has not been very conducive to have the IPO, and therefore for us, it was a blessing in disguise in many ways, because it has also helped us in we were already on our path to profitability. It has also helped us in accelerating the path to profitability. So we take it as a blessing. And I think, therefore, the good part is that we are on that journey, and we are just a few months away from that journey of reaching break even and profitability at a company level. And then at a point of time when we will need funds for, let's say, growth, then it can be either private markets or public market. We will take a call at that point of time.
And finally, can you share a few tips from Himanshu Chakrawarti for the emerging brands targeting the real Bharat?
So more than tips, I think one of the key things is in terms of putting yourself in the shoes of the Bharat customer and try to solve their problems. Yeah, we can always try to push the best discount and the best offer and the best sale messaging, but those are quite short term and very transactional in nature. What can you do to build a connect with the customers which solves their real problems? So that would be one, what you want to call it, a tip, one tip which would be, which would be there. And the second one is India. The language plays a huge role. The anglicized audiences, many of us are from that background. Yeah, is a small part of India. Yeah. The larger one is all about languages, and at some stage, actually, it is also about dialects. We may take a long time to reach there, but at least we must, to actually target the real Bharat, we should be serious about the language. You know, the concept of language playing a significant role in this.
So I think that was all I had. Thank you so much for taking out time for this. It was lovely, great talking to you. Thank
Tanya,
you.
absolutely wonderful talking to you, and thank you so much for asking questions which are so relevant for both Snapdeal and the Bharat consumer. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.